Meta Platforms is a company that we are all interested in right now because it is down significantly from its highs of $370 something when it was $1 trillion company. Now, losing about $700 billion of market value and coming down to about $111 stock. It was at $88, so it's up 27% from its lows a couple of weeks ago. But nonetheless, it has been demolished. One of my friends on Twitter named Antonio Linares writes an awesome Substack. I'm going to link it in the description. You guys can check it out. And he just did a recent research. He spent a month researching Meta, and he wrote 5,000 words on it. This is a Twitter thread that's a summary of his 5,000 words. I actually really like some of his thoughts, so I want to go through his thoughts, I want to analyze it, and if you want to read the full Substack, you guys can check it out in the description. So let's start off with his core arguments around Meta. Number one, he says Meta is creating a new and powerful flywheel that is being largely ignored by the market. If it works, it can give if it supercharges Meta's family of apps and defeat TikTok. Meta is directing most of its capex towards developing this flywheel and not the metaverse. So he does a little bit of analysis here, and he shows that 15% of the content viewed by users across Facebook and Instagram is recommended by AI and the messaging surface concerns, mostly P2P interactions, meaning the metaverse, as much as CapEx that's being put into the metaverse, a lot of money is also being spent on the recommendation algorithm. Now, to understand this, if you're a Meta investor or even an investor in content products in general, and this also includes Netflix or HBO, Paramount, all these different types of companies, because all of them are still in the content business. At the end of the day, Facebook and Netflix are competing for your attention. What the advantage is on user-generated content platforms is the ability to algorithmically suggest content at an infinite level because you always have content being uploaded. The reason YouTube beats Netflix any time of the day, 365 days a year, is because Netflix has to buy content, YouTube has people uploading. The tangential difference here is the value of that content, right? Like, is the Netflix super premium produced content better than YouTube's user-generated content? And I think that debate has been answered. I think people like seeing real people doing real stuff. Real people also create phenomenal things on the platform. And I think that is just so much more of an authentic and real relationship than watching the latest premium show. So at that point, if Meta is able to really build a graph of recommendations across interests and not your friend circle, which it was doing for the past decade, they have a chance to really beat TikTok, including the fact if TikTok doesn't end up doing that well, given the Chinese concerns that are going on, right? Could it potentially be banned? Second, he said, if you track Meta's progress on the AI, Reels, and the biz messaging front, it has grown exponential from 0 in Q1 2020. This is when TikTok was first threatening them and they decided to pivot, to very quickly becoming a product with impressive numbers in Q3 2022. This stands in contradiction with the narrative that Meta can't monetize WhatsApp. So let's read a little bit of what he says here. In Q1 2020, the company was just laying out the vision for the click-to-messaging ads. These are the ads they put in WhatsApp. WhatsApp has 450 million MAUs. I mean, like, WhatsApp is a very, very big product. Per Q3 2022, the business is now at a $9 billion annualized run rate. These are ads that show up in WhatsApp, which again is one of the most popular messaging apps in the world, second to iMessage, or I think even above iMessage. And you see ads in your WhatsApp. Facebook is, and Meta is, an advertising company at its core. So for them to be able to not monetize WhatsApp and pay, I think, $19 billion for it in 2014, they were playing the long game for the past 8 years, and now they're finally developing the infrastructure to be able to monetize all those users and give independent e-commerce merchants the ability to sell right through WhatsApp. And then we go to Reels. In Q3 2020, Reels was an infant and just getting rolled out to 50 additional countries. Per Q3 2022, there are now 140 billion Reel plays a day across Facebook and Instagram. There are also 1 billion Reels shared on Instagram daily through messages. If you're in your DMs, right, you probably see a bunch of your friends sharing you these Reels. In Q2 2022, Reels accounted for 20% of the time spent on Instagram, representing a 30% sequential increase from the previous quarter. Why is that relevant? A lot of people thought that Reels couldn't beat TikTok because, you know, Instagram, you have your friends and you have your stories, which is the main part of how you engage with content. And Reels is this like new recommendation channel surfing media type of platform that was intrinsic to TikTok until YouTube Shorts and Instagram and, you know, other platforms started to come in. So if 30% of the time is being spent on Reels and not just, or sorry, 20% of the time on Reels, not just the like seeing what your friends are seeing, that's good. Because that means more people are discovering more content, fueling the data that's necessary to influence the intelligence models of Reels, because it can't get good if it doesn't have data on how users are engaging with the content, which means the recommendation algorithm gets better, keeps people on the app for longer, which means they get to see and click on more ads. And so I think that's a really important point to mention when it comes to that flywheel. He then says, if the flywheel continues to progress at this rate, soon it will account for the line shares of Meta's top line revenue. Meta's solution to monetize the flywheel is beautifully elegant, just by incentivizing merchants to point their ads towards the messaging API. And that's where he makes an argument around Apple, right? So if merchants can point their ads to the messaging application programming interface, API, that Meta has developed for WhatsApp, that also fuels the flywheel of more and more companies just advertising on WhatsApp, which gives them more and more data on building an amazing advertising algorithm and advertising moat around WhatsApp, which allows them to be able to really, really rein in what they're going to be doing. He says here, as illustrated by the percentage of content that is recommended by AI, this is only just the beginning. Fundamentally, the company is aiming to monetize this new emerging surface by incentivizing merchants to point their ads at the messaging API instead of charging for the latter. This is a very agile way for the company to capture value and enables for the ad attribution to be easier. In an increasingly privacy-focused world, because of AT&T and iOS, in testing its new Advantage shopping feature during the Q3 2020 or 2022, the company found advertisers obtaining a 32% increase in ad ROI from these WhatsApp ads, which is really important. I mean, at the end of the day, that's incredibly important, and that gives another chance for WhatsApp to be able to monetize. Next, he says, in effect, Meta is transitioning towards AI and privacy. And if it does, it will be likely much better business in 10 years' time than today. And if you go back in history, Meta is the master of transitions due to its culture. This isn't Meta's first rodeo. Now, I know Antonio speaks a lot on his Substack about valuing companies that have culture and management and leadership that actually is able to get the job done and show different things. And he really cares a lot about that when it comes to his investment. So he says here, information flows efficiently. The company has a flat hierarchy, and feedback from lower ranking employees is well processed by management. Many employees have the sense, which may not actually reflect the reality, that the company is run bottom up. There is a constructive attitude towards failure. Employees are empowered right out of the gate. This is, move fast and break things, the famous saying by Facebook, as evidenced by some accounts of interns being given relatively big responsibilities and are allowed to make mistakes and learn. He also says employees find meaning in their work. People feel connected to the mission. There are a small percentage of jerks and feel like colleagues are generally nice and highly talented. Work is challenging and the organization moves fast enough for people to be engaged, with occasional complaints of work-life balance getting out of touch. Makes sense. So instead of talking about the desktop and feed and mobile and stories, now we're going to AI and privacy, which is that next transition, and Meta has been able to pull it off before. He then says, while the metaverse, this is number 5, while the metaverse bet is highly speculative, it is possible to frame an investment in Meta asymmetrically by ideally buying into the company for less than the value of the family of apps. And this is why I liked his approach to this article, is because he's not just talking about like the metaverse being the next big frontier. He's talking about the family of apps are undervalued. And it's like Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. If you just buy into that, there is a potential for you to have share appreciation here, even if you don't think the metaverse will work, which it's an asymmetric bet. So there's a chance it doesn't work, but if it does, it's very important. He then says, once framed asymmetrically, it is also the case that Meta doesn't have to instantiate the metaverse fully to begin to reap the rewards. It may be that gaining traction with enough hardware device may suffice. That Meta Quest Pro 2 is maybe just some iterations away from that. And we've seen this happen before, right? Like the iPhone 3 and then 3GS was like 2 to 3 years of Apple just experimenting with small things. And then the iPhone 4 was the revolutionary thing, right? Which like had this new box design, all this stuff. And then the iPhone X 10 generations later, where you had Face ID, was the next revolutionary. So there are years that Meta can go just doing simple iterations on their product, getting more users, getting more people into the metaverse, getting more people into the flywheel of what Meta is trying to be able to do. And as a result of that afterwards, Meta will then have a chance to monetize that by truly releasing the products that are revolutionary at scale, and benefiting off all the data that they have. He says, as I said in the first tweet, Meta is allocating most of its capital to its family of apps, which in Q3 2022 represented 82% of its expenses. So yes, they're spending close to $10 billion a year on the metaverse, but 82% of their expenses are still going to maintaining this thing that controls 3.3 billion people every single month. All of that really matters for the company now is whether they can successfully move towards AI. The cap allocation is prudent in order for them to be able to do this. And again, you can listen to more or read more in his Substack. So I think this makes a lot of sense at the end of the day. This Substack was not mainly focused on the metaverse. That's an asymmetric bet and it could work, but the family of apps themselves seem to be undervalued. Does that mean Meta is a buy right now? Potentially, but also you've got to factor in the macro. You've got to factor in they've just had layoffs. You've got to factor in that PE ratios are compressing. They're as oversold as Meta is. We saw it go to $88. It's at 110, but we saw it collapse, and that could happen again if we have an entire market crash. We don't know what's happening over the next 6 months. But from a pure business perspective, looking at the family of apps, looking at the data they control, looking at the simple idea that they're going to transition into AI, that they're going to monetize WhatsApp, that the ads business is only going to get better and better and better, that they have 3 billion people, that they have 10 million advertisers, that most of these people in the third world countries use Facebook on a daily basis to get their news, even if in Western parts of the world we use other independent outlets. Like Facebook is the source for information and truth. The centralization of attention that they have been able to control and the recommendation algorithms they are fueling into those platforms based on other people getting discovered, which is the flywheel. If I feel I'll get discovered, I will give you my content, which means if you have my content, you can fuel your data and algorithms, which means you never have to worry about content, which means you can keep people's attention if you have the content because I give you the content because you get me discovered. That is the playbook over the next decade when it comes to content recommendation platforms. I know this because I have a startup at audia.io. You guys can check it out in the description. That's trying to build something around the recommendation space in the audio markets. And so if they're able to maintain that moat, they have a very significant chance of being able to build a platform that is greater than what TikTok is able to do with just pure video. I mean, at the end of the day, TikTok is not an everything app. It's a pure entertainment platform. Now, let's see what TikTok gets into. There's probably a lot of opportunities, live shopping, YouTube competitor, music competitor. There's a lot of stuff. But at this moment, Meta, given the control of attention it has, is poised to be a very, very successful company over the next 10 years if they can execute successfully to this transition in AI, which again, just fuels their moat to be able to recommend content. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for listening, watching. You can leave it in the comments. And again, shout out to Antonio, his Substack in the description. Highly recommend subscribing and checking it out. I think it's free to subscribe, so you can check him out and read his deep dives. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you in the next one.